This year's Me Too and Time's Up movements led to the downfall of some of the country's most powerful media moguls after women started speaking up about sexual assault. But the impact for some of the accused may not be equal. A columnist from the Boston Globe says black women are waiting for their Me Too movement, including a day of reckoning for Grammy Award-winning singer R. Kelly. Renee Graham is an associate editor and columnist for the Boston Globe. She wrote the article and joins me now to discuss. Renee, thank you so much for being with us. You reference Salma Hayek in your article. The actress recently spoke at Cannes about why she believes Harvey Weinstein decided to publicly challenge her and actress Lupita Nyong'o after she wrote an article against the disgraced media mogul in the New York Times. So let's listen to what she had to say.
He only responded to two women.
Mm-hmm. You and Lupita.
Yeah,
right.
Two women of color. It was a strategy by the lawyers because we are the easiest to get discredited. This is a study. It was not my idea. Somebody actually wrote a beautiful article about it. Mm-hmm. It is a well-known fact that if you are a woman of color, people believe in you less and believe what you say less. So he went back attacking the two women of color in hopes of discrediting, if he could discredit us, which would be easier for the audience, the readers, to not believe us, he could then maybe discredit the rest. So he went to the weakest links.
So, Renee, what do you make of what Hayek had to say and how it's relevant to other women who've been discredited or ignored?
Well, I think it wasn't obviously a provocative statement, but I think she was correct. If you look at what has happened for the last 2 decades with the women who've accused R. Kelly, all of whom are women of color, their claims have gotten no traction compared to what's been happening in the last 8 months or so now. So there is something to that. I think she was right when she says that, women of color generally aren't believed, and if people do listen to them, they're easier to discredit.
So is this the only reason then that R. Kelly seems to be immune to what has brought down so many other men?
I think there's a number of issues at play with R. Kelly. I mean, I think if you look at the women who accused Harvey Weinstein, you're talking about Ashley Judd and Gwyneth Paltrow, women who are well known. The Kelly's alleged victims are not well known. They're anonymous. And I think that puts them in a different category where it's easier for people to turn away. I think what's happened, by comparatively speaking with what Harvey Weinstein is, people relate to celebrities. And they don't necessarily relate to these sort of nameless, faceless women, which is the way I think that they consider the Kelly accusers. So
you also point to something else in your article that I think is interesting. Not only are these women of color less believed in general, but also that when they are accusing a man of color, that they are sometimes turned against as, somehow being racist.
Well, it's a very tricky dynamic within the African-American community. And, for years and years, like I said, people have been sort of talking about R. Kelly, but not just talking about R. Kelly, but making jokes about R. Kelly. Dave Chappelle has made jokes about it. Chris Rock has made jokes about it. And in a way, they sort of treat it as a joke, except it's not a joke to the women who are making these accusations. And there is this sense that, he's a successful man and that you really can't drag down a successful black man. And what does it say about you as a woman if you're going after a black man? And I think that, we've seen that before. We saw that with Anita Hill and Clarence Thomas. We've seen that in recent weeks with the singer Kelis, who was talking about her ex-husband Nas and the fact that they had an abusive relationship. There was a lot of blowback because the sense was, why do you have to talk about that and why do you have to drag him down? He's successful. And it's almost as if what's most important is upholding this man's reputation and not sort of dealing with a woman who's, making some very serious allegations.
Do you think that that is beginning to change?
I think, the Me Too movement is sort of pushing people to reconsider the allegations against R. Kelly. And we've seen, the Time's Up movement, which is sort of an offshoot of Me Too, and the Mute R. Kelly movement are, making much more noise and getting some attention. But, we're talking about 2 decades. You know, you're going back to the mid-90s when people first start talking about R. Kelly. And you have to constantly ask yourself, why has it taken this long with women who are on the record? You know, Chicago journalist Jim DeRogatis has been doing this for 2 decades.
Right.
And only now are people paying attention, a little bit of attention to what's being said. But R. Kelly is still, you know, doing his concerts. He's still got his fans, and he seems as defiant as ever. So, you know, there's a little bit of movement, but we have to really wait and see what'll come of this.
Well, speaking of something else that took a long time, comedian Bill Cosby was just recently convicted of indecent sexual assault, and dozens of his accusers over the years were women of many races. Do you think that this conviction is an important moment for Black women?
Well, I think it's an important moment for all women, frankly. I think one difference between Bill Cosby and R. Kelly is, you know, it seems within the entertainment industry, a lot of people had heard the allegations about Bill Cosby. I don't know that they really sort of funneled out to everyone else, unlike the R. Kelly allegations, which everyone has heard about. You know, so I'm not sure the 2 cases are necessarily comparable in that way. You know, it would be nice to think that, okay, you know, justice has finally caught up to Bill Cosby. Maybe that will also be the case for R. Kelly, but we have to wait and see. Again, it's, you know, the movement has been, you know, really minute at this point. There hasn't been a lot, but it's just starting. But, you know, it worries me again that it's taken so long. It feels like people might, you know, divert their attention again.
Well, what do you think needs to change? What should be done next?
You know, you've got, in the R. Kelly case, you've got woman after woman on the record, you know, with their names and these very detailed stories of what's happened to them, you know, over the course of years and years. You know, I'm just curious as to why they aren't being investigated. You know, at some point, you would hope that police either in Georgia or in Illinois, where R. Kelly has homes, would be looking into some of these things. I can't, you know, I don't really see the point in a woman getting up here and lying about this because, you know, they know that there's going to be a backlash for speaking out. So I'd like to see some kind of, you know, legal recourse for what they're doing. You know, R. Kelly's been on trial before, and he was acquitted 10 years ago. But, you know, a lot has happened since then, and there are a lot more women now who, since they're on the record and in the press, I think would certainly be willing to testify against him if it came to that. But it actually has to come to that, which, you know, at this point, there's no telling whether it will.
All right, Renee Graham, thank you.
Thank you.